am Dr. Arun Reddy. I am working with IGNC as research officer. Looking at the title of my presentation today, you might be wondering that I am going to propose one grand model or a grand framework for this kind of collaborative mechanism in management of built heritage of India. But given the diversity of our built heritage, I don't think the top-down model of having one standard model that can be replicated across India would not work in case of India, or for that matter, any heritage management project across the world. Before I go to explain the case of Adopt a Heritage, I would like to show a video.
Thousands of years of Indian heritage has been shaped by great kings, emperors, dynasties, and cultures. And now, a unique opportunity presents itself to you to attach your name with India's heritage. Presenting Adopt a Heritage. Apni dharohar, apni pehchan. There are 3,686 archaeological sites, 36 World Heritage Sites, 116 ASI ticketed monuments, and many other heritage sites across India. Each one of them brings to the forefront the elegance and splendor of the bygone era. Therefore, it becomes the responsibility of the citizens to maintain and preserve them. Which is why we, the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Culture, and the ASI are calling upon corporate entities, public sector companies, and other corporate citizens to partner with us in our grand initiative, Adopt a Heritage. Apni dharohar, apni pehchan. Wherein you share the responsibility with us of providing basic amenities like cleanliness, public conveniences, and easy accessibility at these sites. So come, join us. Together we'll work towards preserving not just our glorious past, but also building a brighter tomorrow.
So this project specifically is from Ministry of Tourism, and the objective is the entire project is looked from the perspective of a tourist. Since the tourism ministry doesn't have any of the tourist destination without, or most of the tourist destination without any heritage structures, they had to collaborate with Ministry of Culture and then the following or any other state department. So there is one kind of this collaborative mechanism was suggested at that time, and they framed a top-down model wherein they decided it's like kind of supply-driven model where the basic amenities as well as what has to be provided in this scheme, all these things came from the top side. I will get into the details of Adopt a Heritage when I discuss in detail about that, but going to the background of this concept of adopting a heritage. So it goes back to the European model where it started in the year 1991 as the Adopt a Monument scheme of Scotland. There, the Archaeology Scotland, Archaeology Scotland is a group of archaeologists who has a lot of expertise in the specific domain of public archaeology. They were given this task of managing this entire project of Adopt a Monument this scheme. So what they did is like they organized trainings and the workshops and this whatever the practical activities and the seminars and the mentoring and fundraising activities, all these were taken care by this archaeologists of Archaeology Scotland to engage the community, especially the local community, and bringing that cultural heritage, built heritage to the community's day-to-day life. That was the core of the entire project. That is to bring the monument into the day-to-day lives of community. Then the community will take care of the monument in a sustainable way. The same model was copied by the kind of little bit of additions and deletions, and Ireland also followed it. But here they changed the project monument to project management consultant was a different person here. Like Adopt a Heritage, it's again a group of archaeologists who has expertise, especially in the public archaeology and community archaeology. More or less the agenda and the core idea and the objectives are the same. That is to bring the community into the operation and the maintenance of the local heritage sites. this idea of having private participation in the management of built heritage was there legally sanctioned in the 1958 when the Act of Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act was formulated. As per the section 15 of this, you can read that it's like state that voluntary contributions under section 15, the Director General may receive voluntary contributions toward the cost of maintaining a protected monument and may give orders as to the management and application of any funds so received by him. Provided that no contribution received under this section shall be applied to any purpose other than the purpose of which it was mentioned, contributed. So basically the idea is to give a lot of freedom to the donor. That is, in this case, it is either it's a public corporate company or public sector company or a private sector company or any individual or any NGO or association or a club or a group of archaeologists. So this idea was there, like, and the freedom was given, a lot of freedom was given to these groups, like you can come donate and then you can also give us what exactly has to be done at the heritage site and what are the activities that we want to plan over a period of time and how all these things can be kind of it is actually legally sanctioned at that time itself. But it only took into a proper legal framework, into the action only in the year 1996 when this National Culture Fund was created. It is a trust actually under Ministry of Culture. And the purpose of the trust is to accept the donations from the people and create a separate dedicated account, which is in addition to the separate from the Consolidated Fund of India, because if we put this money in the Consolidated Fund of India, that donations, if it goes into then again it will goes to the Finance Ministry for budget allocation, all these things. So it is like it forms into the major budgetary allocations of the Ministry of Finance. But this National Culture Fund separately allocates, gives a separate dedicated account for that. So whoever has donated money for that, it will be there in that account and it will be spent for only that purpose. And the whatever the donations are made, it is 100% tax exempt. Then and they have a detailed what is a framework of administrative structure where a project implementation committee is there and then a project advisory committee is there. These committees were there to guide the day-to-day activities of the fund operation. Then the administrative structure includes the council, which is headed by headed by the Minister of Culture. Then the executive committee is headed by the Secretary Culture. These are some stated objectives of the NCF, National Culture Fund, which says like to undertake the studies and research on artistic, scientific, and these are generally wherever you see any of the United Nations or any of these objectives of any preservation, protection, or conservation of the cultural heritage. These are some of the generic objectives. These are also same borrowed from those objectives only. Coming to the adopt a heritage project, I think the concept of adopt, the word adopt comes into play when there is some kind of orphan. But in the case of India, if you look at the MSR Act, the Act 1958, it says that, and also if you look at the Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution, where there is a separation of powers, if you look at the entire monuments and the site archaeological, there is no unprotected monument as such existing in the India, whether it is protected by the central government or is it protected by state government. In the case of archaeological monuments, it is always the, if it is not notified under the MSR Act, then obviously it falls in the state list. The state has to take care of it. In the case of archaeological sites, if it is not notified even if it is not notified under the central government, it still falls in the domain of the central government only. It's like in the, when I say Schedule 7, where the separation of powers happens, there are three lists, like state list, union list, and concurrent list. So these monuments and sites are clearly defined. So as such, there is no existence of unprotected monuments. Either it has to be protected by state or it has to be protected by central government. So now, in that background, that this adopt a heritage was like formulated, as I said previously, by Ministry of Tourism, and the keeping the tourist experiences and their requirements as a core of the entire project. So it's a collaborative project, Ministry of Tourism, in collaboration with Ministry of Culture and Archaeological Survey of India, or in some places it is a state archaeology departments. what they do, they collaborate with the Monument Mitra. And what are the Monument Mitras? Monument Mitras are nothing but the private sector or public sector companies or any trust, NGOs, even any individual. These all can has the potential. They can become the Monument Mitras, and they combine, work together, and come and execute these tourist amenities. So these are tourist amenities are again divided into two parts, that is basic amenities and the advanced amenities. When you look at the basic amenities, these are more like a, I'll list out in the next slide. But whatever the amenities that were proposed are subject to the approval of the accepted guidelines of the nodal department, whether it is a Archaeological Survey of India or any other state government or the state departments. So these are some of the basic amenities, which in most cases, when the project was started way back in 2017, September 27th, actually, that was the day of World Internet Tourist Day, actually. So it was inaugurated by the then President of India. Exactly by tomorrow, it will be 5 years of its initiation. So 5 years, I think, is a decent time to evaluate its objectives and outcome. Coming to the basic objectives, basic amenities there, it is like, these are like public conveniences, drinking water facilities and ease of access, cleanliness of this site and illumination, signages, benches, dustbins, Wi-Fi. All this is a basic thing which any visitor wants to, nowadays, any visitor wants to have these kind of things at any of the places they visit. Not only the heritage site, but generally whenever they visit any institution or such places. And the advanced amenities are these like, which involves a lot of capital intensive or capital intense interventions or the infrastructural interventions. It can be like a sound and light show or the battery operated vehicles or some kind of a tourism facility or a visitor center with all the international standards of these amenities there. Then we have an interpretation center. And so basically these advanced amenities requires a huge chunk of money, and also it requires a continuous funding for these activities to sustain that. Management structure of adopted heritage is like this. There is one committee called Oversight and Vision Committee, which is co-chaired by Secretary Tourism and Secretary Culture. And they are like completely supported by the Monument Committee, then Implementation Committee. And entire thing is coordinated by a project management consultant. So in this adopted heritage project, this management consultant, project management consultant is from a private entity like KPMG, EY, Power Water, Price Water, PwC. These are different allied international consultants who look into the, especially the corporate companies which has a lot of CSR funds. So they get in touch with them and they request them, they talk to them, and they put up this entire idea of adopting a heritage. So, but when we look at the model of European model of the adopted monument scheme, where the project management consult are nothing but a group of archaeologists who's having expertise in the public archaeology. They were the one who are coordinating this entire project. But in case of India, it is a different group of project management consultant who does not have any expertise towards the archaeology. So this is where the problem started happening in the when it is the plans was put on field and started executing that. So how do they under this project, how do they select a monument mitra? So generally they are called the expression of interest. So anyone can put up their expression of interest to this Oversight and Vision Committee with details about how much from funding you are going to take care of, put forward for maintenance and operation of the entire that heritage site, and also your vision for the monument or the site. So all this you need to mention in a detailed format, and those expression of interest will be submitted to Monument Committee and then Implementation Committee. That will initially screen out, and then they'll go forward to the ONVC Committee, and the ONVC Oversight and Vision Committee finally allocates this certain monuments along with some suggested names of the monument mitras. They issue a letter of intent, and within 2 months they have to submit a vision bid. This vision bid is something innovative in the recent days, where the potential monument mitra has to clearly outline what exactly they are going to do for the next 5 years and how they want to make a specific place as the best tourist destination. So that idea they have to put in the vision bid, and those bids will be again screened by the Oversight and Vision Committee. And within 2 months, the Monument Mitra will be finalized, and that Monument Mitra has to sign MOU with all the stakeholders. So here the stakeholders start coming into the picture, then they start negotiating like what amenities you need, what amenities we can afford to provide at the monument or the site. So these negotiations happen here. Then finally, once the MOU is signed, then they'll prepare a comprehensive plan, which includes whatever I said so far, like all the vision for the monument along with the funding structure and all these things. Once it is approved by the nodal agency, in case of centrally protected monuments, it is Archaeological Survey of India. In case of other state and the other departments, they are the nodal agencies. So once it is approved by them, then the comprehensive plan goes into implementation stage, where the Monument Mitra, actual Monument Mitra starts putting their money and start investing, whether it can be toilets or drinking water or whatever the approved as per the MOU signed. So in all these things, the project management consultant plays a key coordinating role between all the partner stakeholders in this. So this is how it looks like. So this is the project financial structure is about taking the CSR from the private parties or any other trusts or NGOs who can afford to spend their money in the cultural management of the cultural heritage site. So it doesn't get you, the organizations or the NGOs do not get into this kind of a tax exemption is not there. So it is only targeting the CSR funds. And whatever the funds that is required for the next coming years also should be borne by, because the duration of the MOU is for 5 years. So they have to take care like how their company is going to operate, how their balance sheet is going to be there for next 5 years, and how they are going to generate that CSR money into investing in this monument or the heritage management. These all things will be clearly explained in the vision bit. So based on that only they will be selected actually. Look at the monument Mitras in the Archaeological Survey of India. So far we have signed around 24 MOUs. Look at the nature of the monument Mitras. Except for 1 or 2, most of them are related to the tourism and hospitality industry. You can just read out the names. Heritage Resorts is one, Orange County Resort. So these are all either into hospitality or into tourism sector, and they have that agenda of getting benefit out of this scheme rather than the benefit of the monument or something. Because once the monument looks more cleaner, more kind of sophisticated in nature in terms of present days, the more number of tourists comes and the experiences increase and their company revenues increase. So that was the idea behind these people coming forward and putting their money in the Adopt a Heritage project. Then this, the interesting aspect of this is like when we started executing this project since just before the COVID time, there is once the amenities are created, once the advanced amenities, for example, visitor center and souvenir shop, snack counter, once these are set up in the government property. Government property means the monuments which are under protection of either state or the central government. But the revenue that is coming from these activities usually goes into the Consolidated Fund of India, which the only the budget Ministry of Finance has the power to again redistribute that money. But in this case, they suggested like we shall have a dedicated, as per the MOU, standard MOU, there is a separate dedicated account managed with the Monument Mitra. And that account is not only managed, it is owned by the Monument Mitra. So whatever the money that is generated out of sound and light show or some kind of any other tourism events or cultural events or the tickets that are for the toilets or drinking water. So all these things goes into a dedicated account, and that entire its operation and maintenance is done by the Monument Mitra, which is a private entity or which is any other individual can also be there, or NGO or trust or anyone can be there. The condition is that only thing is that account has to be audited by a CAG empanel chartered accountant. Once it is approved a quarterly basis, once it is done, then if there is a surplus fund, it will go again. It has to be for sure. It has to be invested into the management of the heritage. If there is some deficit, if there is some not sufficient money, then the funds which is CSR funds of the company or that Monument Mitra has to come back and then has to be deposited in this, and then again it has to be, that circle has to be maintained so that the investment that is made in creating the advanced amenities or in the basic amenities will sustain for a long time. That was the idea. But the problem here is, like as I said, like the this, once the revenue generation comes, when the money is started coming on the public property, then there are issues concerning how do you take care of the money that is going to come. So these are, as I said, like the issue is about the opening and operation of the dedicated account by Monument Mitra, which the nodal departments have raised objections saying that the the money should not be given to the Monument Mitra alone. Let it be a joint account. And these negotiations happened for a while. Then there is some observations are sought from the higher ups in the finance ministry, and then they gave a detailed reply for how to take forward this scheme. Then there is also other area when Monument Mitra creates some kind of infrastructure, and when they start charging fees. Basically, when Archaeological Survey of India charge fees, it is like 5 rupees, 10 rupees, is like 15 rupees max, 50 rupees max. That is the ticket price. But once the private player comes into the picture and once they start charging higher monies, then it will not be easy for the common man to enter the monument and have experience the monument. So that was where they decided that the nodal agency will be the major player in deciding the prices of the services or the prices of the items that are provided by the Monument Mitra in the cultural heritage sites. So these are the issues. Then the left side were the one which were proposed by the ASI general. Then the right side were the arguments of the Monument Mitras general. These are some of the general arguments put forward by both parties. These like advanced amenities, upgraded whatever developed by the Monument Mitra would be handed over following an open tendering process in which the Monument Mitra can also participate. That was the idea given by ASA, but then they were like, if the if the amenities were through tender process, if it is given to some party which does not have that kind of emotional attachment to the monument, then and the Monument Mitra and the one which won the tender of are in different page, then this kind of struggle happens there. So they denied that kind of proposition there. Then the joint account owned that was proposed by SA. Then they said like day-to-day withdrawals of the money from the joint account would be a very difficult task because they would employ some daily wages, and for them paying them money would be a different difficult task to get every time go to the SA then get approval from there. So it is all a kind of a difficult task for them. So in the meantime, the matter went to the Ministry of Finance, and these were some of the interesting comments which came like, any commercial legal activities carried out from the premises owned and controlled by the government, and the receipts thereof legally pertains to the government and considered part of non-tax revenue, thereby ultimately form part of Consolidated Fund of India, which I told you in the previous slide. And opening a dedicated account for receipts and payments in the name of the Monument Mitra, a private entity, and to operate is an alienation of the government receipts. So whatever the revenue that is generated, if it is not going to the Consolidated Fund of India, that is something which is not as per the rules. So in case of even if we consider that the Monument Mitra, we have signed it for the 5 years under the MOU, if we even taking into the time as a consideration for 5 years, we are going to allow this kind of operation, then the question is about how come after 5 years, what would be the status of that account? Who is going to take care of the account, and how that is going to be pictured into the entire financial activities of the Ministry of Culture or Ministry of Tourism under. So in case of, if we consider the CA's advice for alienation of receipts for a certain period, that is 5 years, in present case, as per the UOA, then the question will always arise how the operational maintenance of semi-commercial activities will be taken care after 5 years, or even in case when the Monument Mitra leaves the project in between, or when the sufficient funds are not accrued in the separate account to operate and maintain any semi-commercial activity. So these were the two observations, and these two observations has created a deadlock in that entire operation of the monument, this Adopt a Heritage project. So these are some of the observations on Adopt a Heritage project, why it could not take off very well, though it was widely publicized, and there was initially there was a lot of enthusiasm among the corporate parties. But unfortunately, due to the COVID also, and basically during the COVID, I think the tourism industry was one which was hugely affected, and most of the Monument Mitras are from the tourism industry. They were not into the exact that deeply. They do not connect to the monument. They only came with the purpose. So they started requesting the nodal agencies to extension of timelines, and all these things happened. And ultimately, as on date, not much work has been done on this project, though it is grandly inaugurated. Into some of the observation when compared to the objectives of the National Culture Fund. If you look at the objectives of the National Culture Fund, then the objectives of the Adopt a Heritage, or the objectives of the Adopt a Monument scheme, which is initiated by Scotland, there is a clear difference in what exactly it is happening, and in some of the cases it is completely overlapping with the objectives that was mentioned in the previous National Cultural Fund and the current Adopt a Heritage. The especially the approach in terms of keeping this community at as a center of the entire management completely is now omitted in this Adopt a Heritage project. And Adopt a Heritage is found to have missed the people-based approach where the locals are not involved as the main contributors to the management of the heritage. And the project management consultant, I said, like they are appointed by Ministry of Tourism, are found to have no experience or expertise in community archaeology, or for that matter in public archaeology also. Most of the monument mitras are from the tourism and hospitality industry. The sustenance of Adopt a Heritage project is closely linked to the performance of the tourism industry at the domestic and international level. And COVID-19 has rightly has highlighted the weak links in this entire project. It is observed that most of the monument mitras have a hidden agenda, which I said previously, like the monument mitra do not from their bottom of up do not get into the management. Rather, they try to increase the experience of their own customers or the visitors or the tourists who come through their channels. So it is argued that the tourism is infrastructure intervention in the form of elimination and whatever the advanced amenities which they which are proposed from the top using the top-down approach, sometimes are found to be in conflict with the structural integrity and the aesthetic value of the monument. So though there is this is one example where we were like proposals were coming for the setting up of ropeways to the Shivaji forts. When Shivaji was building these forts, he did not expect that one day 10,000 people will come to the fort. His idea was strategically not to allow any of the people to walk like that. So, but when we propose these kind of things, then the entire carrying capacity of the forts or the heritage structures may not be able to sustain that kind of huge crowd there. So, in some cases, these wirings of these sound and light show, cables, lights, and fixtures of these things are completely obstructing the aesthetic value of the monuments. That is also one of the reasons why nodal departments like ASI and the other state departments rightly objected to the interventions of this kind of infrastructure there. So I said like this is more of a replica of a top-down approach, which is found to be unsustainable and collaborative mechanism. Way forward, when we look, but in the next coming 30 years or 40 years or 20 years in the near future, we can see these kind of projects keep coming up, and these kinds of innovative projects will be keep coming. Then as an archaeologist, if you do not have that public archaeologist orientation, if you do not contribute to these kind of projects in a intellectual way, then we don't know how the our rich cultural heritage, built heritage will be able to withstand these interventions in the name of innovative schemes or the projects. So the approach should be now, the way forward would be to bring back the monuments into the community day-to-day living, but it may not be possible in the case of metropolitan cities where there is already a mixed group of people surrounding the monument, and it is very difficult to involve the community and also bring some kind of identity of this local community in getting connected to that monument. So, but whereas in the other remote areas where there is some significant archaeological monuments and sites, where there we can try to bring in them, bring the local community participation, at least in the management of the monument. The locally elected representatives should be part of the heritage management committees to reflect the aspirations of the locals in the management of heritage. This is a little bit of tricky, but it has to be balanced in a way it is to be done to make it a sustainable practice. Inclusion of casual labor works carried out by ASI in exploration, excavation, conservation, and protection under the approved works of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act would go a long way in possibly addressing the issues of community participation in management of heritage, because once we involve these people, not only as a laborer, but also as a public archaeologist, once we explain them the significance of the excavation there and the explorations there, that definitely locals would will also be taking part in the preservation of these activities. The other issue is about this final last slide. This is debureaucratization of the heritage management institution. This is where we need to bring in more of the archaeologists into the administration of these archaeological sites or the heritage sites. And instead of having kind of if you look at the MSR Act 1958, which says that there are some boundaries around the monument. There is a protected area, there is a regulated area, there is a prohibited area. So, and that is fixed irrespective of the monument, where it is located. For some monuments, it is given exception, but 99% of the monuments have this kind of regulated protected area, and 100 meters, 200 meters is a standard format there. But the problem comes when this, when that is not this kind of boundaries creation is not taken in consultation with the locals. Then you see the encroachments, and the day-to-day work of the archaeological officers will be only to issue notices and all this kind of a mundane, ordinary work, where the archaeological officers, instead of doing research, will be focusing on only these kinds of activity. That is one area which we need to take care of, to involve the locals' participation in the setting the limits of the monuments, for which it requires the amendment to the Principal Act. Then the engaging public archaeologist in the community archaeologist as a project management consultant would be, in the long way, it will be useful for the entire, whenever there is a new proposal or a new plan that is going to be implemented. I think the public archaeologist should take step forward and get into this discussion. I'd like to thank all the officials in my previous assignment in the Archaeological Survey of India. I worked with some of the top officers in Archaeological Survey of India, where I got their feedback, and then I have to also discuss with other stakeholders in the, such as like from the KPMG project managers consultants there working on this scheme especially, and then also Ministry of Tourism officials, and also the monument mitras who were given this adopted some of the monuments of India.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
any
Dr.
questions?
Reddy. Any questions?